Kia ora koutou. Ko Janice Lee tāka. I'm the founder and project lead of Koha, based here in Invercargill. And I'm talking a series of video logs that talk about the inspiration behind and the evolution of Koha as an organisation. This is the fourth in the series. The first three were about learning about appreciation, were about recognising the link between poor nutrition and an inability to cope, and the third was about finding the ability of the people that I was working with as opposed to their disabilities, which is fairly obvious in many respects. I was working in the disability sector, and what I found after a period of time was that I was going from house to house to house, and I was working with people, cooking and trying to improve their welfare and their wellness by addressing their lack of nutrition and their nutritional needs. So I thought, let's see how we can make this a little bit more cost efficient. Let's see how we can bring them together and address the issue of the types of food that people are eating, along with variety and things like that. So I spoke to the people that I was working with, and I said to them, and I thought about, what was the sort of things that I grew up with? What was the type of food? I remember having roasts on a regular basis, not for any other reason than it was cheap, and in those days, a leg of lamb was actually quite cheap, but it was also, it went a long way. Mince, there's ways of cooking on a budget, and I'm sure that those are the sort of things that we grew up with. Sausages, yes, for sure, but mince 15 ways? Yeah, hell yeah. So I wrote a list of about 15 or 20 different things that I remembered. So lamb's fry and bacon, oh, my favourite. Fish pie, savoury mince, braised sausages and onion gravy. That's the sort of, really plain, ordinary, wholesome fare that I was thinking about. That's the food that I grew up with. It's the food that my children grew up with. So I wrote down this list, and I invited the people that I was working with to come in and have a look, and they would go, oh yeah, I used to have that. Oh yeah, I remember what that tastes like. This is wonderful. And so every Monday I would encourage people to come in and tick a box, and it will tick 5 boxes, because actually I wanted to create an opportunity to cook 5 different wholesome, nutritious meals for the people that I was working with. So every Monday they would come in and they would choose their 5 from the long list that I had. They'd choose their top 5, and typically it would be something that they hadn't chosen last week or something that they didn't have last week. That happened on a Monday. That's what we call smelling the coffee, because it stimulates that part of your brain that says anticipation. And so they would get all excited, because on Tuesday was benefit day, and that was the day that I wanted them to come in and hand over $25 from their budget. Now, I chose the figure $25 because that was the amount that one of the people that I supported, that was his weekly food budget. That was the whole lot. And I thought, if we do this right, then we can improve that for him. But let's start somewhere. So here's $25. On the Wednesday, people would come in the morning with me, and we would go shopping together to the supermarket. And I would have this list of the 5 of the most popular types of meals that were chosen that week. And we would go in together, and instead of going straight through the fresh fruit and vegetables aisle, we stopped and had a look, and we looked at the price of seasonal vegetables, and we looked at and we put it into a budget, because you remember I have 8 or 10 people here, and they'd all given me $25. That's $250. That's a reasonable sort of budget. So we would go in and we would choose what fresh vegetables that we wanted to go with the meats that we would choose around the next space. And we would go and get all of the different ingredients for $250 that we needed in order to cook 5 different meals. And so on Wednesday afternoon, we would go and cook all these 5 different meals. Now, it wasn't ideal, the situation that I was in, because we didn't have a kitchen in the space that I was working in, but we did have a shed. It was just a vacant space between the business that was behind ours and our service provider's business. It had external entry, and I went into that space. It just was a space where you stored a lot of stuff. So there was a barbecue in there, and there was a lot of junk, which I moved right out of the way, found a long bench table in there, and cleaned everything and made it suitable for us to be able to work in. So we would get all of our ingredients, and on Wednesday afternoon we'd all go in and we would cook together. We were very kindly donated a 2-burner camp stove, and I went to the second-hand shop and bought a couple of big pots and things. So we had everything that we needed there. We also had a microwave that we found in that space, because remember, it was a storage space, and I cajoled a small fridge from a relative that I felt didn't need it anymore. So we had all the equipment that we needed to be able to cook these meals, and we used the microwave for things like like cabbage and things like that for about 2 weeks before it blew up rather spectacularly, and then we just had to move on from there. But anyway, that's another story. So we all started cooking together, and people would be peeling potatoes and carrots, and other people would be chopping vegetables or meat or whatever it was, and we would spend all afternoon, for probably 3 hours, cooking together. So what we found was that, first of all, every week the people who were part of our group went home with 5 different nourishing, made from fresh, wholesome meals. They would take them home, and I knew that for 5 days of the week that they were being supported to have good nutrition. The thing about being in their situation is that they're used to eating a lot of takeaway food, a lot of pre-prepared stuff, and a lot of the things that are within those are quite addictive. So although they loved the meals that we were creating together, there was still an element of, I miss the feeling of the deep fry, because there was nothing fried. I miss the feeling of fried, and all that kind of stuff. So for 2 days a week, they had the opportunity to look after themselves, and if that meant that they just lived on fish and chips or KFC, so be it. Because for 5 days a week they were getting good nutrition. So this is what we were doing. We were in a shed and we were cooking these meals, and every week the people that I was working with would take home 5 wholesome, healthy meals. It was great for us. We were doing really well, and immediately I could see the health benefits. People were starting to lose weight. People actually were enjoying food, sometimes for the first time, and they were maintaining a level of wellness because they were able to eat proper food. We actually had more food than what we could use at that time. And so I'll go into that in the next little bit because it's quite interesting. But we could see the health benefits. And alongside of that, people were learning new skills. They were learning how to chop, peel, and prepare food. Some of them had never done that before. The downside of it was that we were doing, using the barbecue to cook meat oftentimes. We were cooking in a space, and the smell was wafting through into both businesses on either side of us. And it started to create a little bit of angst. Some of the people in our offices kind of knew what we were doing, and so there was a level of tolerance there. People in the other business had no idea, and what smelled delicious when we were cooking it apparently didn't smell anywhere near as delicious by the time it wafted through the wall. And so we knew that the time that we had available to do this would be coming to an end. But that's another one of the reasons that we started cooking.